Oh, YouTube Stick here, how you all doing? Right, so this is a quick video in response to Chappers' Blackstar Series 1 606 video. There's a couple of people have been asking how he records the audio, and he's just written my name underneath. So for those of you that don't know, I'm Stick. I own whatever Maplewood studio, which is my sort of studio built into my home here, and every month I go on site and I record the audio with Rob and Lee, and I'm responsible for all the post-production of the audio, mixing, editing, and then I send Rob a big fat WAV file at the end of it, and he matches it up with the video and edits it and posts the videos. So I'm responsible for all the audio side of things. So, in response to a couple of questions that you guys have asked, what microphones do I use? Well, for the speech, I use a Rode NTG2 shotgun mic, which is on a boom, just hanging over the guys while they're talking. And then I heavily, well, not heavily, I compress that and EQ that, whatever. That's not really what you're asking about, though. For guitars, I use the standard Shure SM57 and a AKG 414B XLS2 with a 6 dB pad engaged on the AKG and cardioid pattern selected. Both microphones are pretty much, if you get a torch and look through the speaker cloth on your speaker cabs, you'll see the dust cone in the middle. We've got one either side just on the edge of the dust cone, pointing straight ahead, and distance they're about an inch and a half back from the front cloth, from the grill. And so far I haven't had to do any phase alignment afterwards in the door. I've managed to get it pretty much spot on by eye, but you know, make sure the capsules of the microphones are about the same sort of distance to save you editing stuff afterwards. Remember, when recording, it's always best to try and get it at source right. Never approach it with the, oh, I'll fix it in the mix, because that, you know, A, it makes a lot more work for yourself, and B, it'll never be exactly what you want, and it is, you know, it's just lazy, really. So anyway, that's how I record the guitar cabs. No matter if we've got 1, 2, 3, it's always the same setup. Everything goes into an RME Octamic Mark II preamp, which is connected via ADAT to a RME Fireface 800. And then that is connected via Firewire into a MacBook Pro. I record using Logic Pro 9, record everything at 48K. I dump all the data on an external hard drive. Always do that when you're recording. Then I bring it all back here to Maplewood Studio, and I do all the post-production here, and away we go from there. So, Blackstar Series 1, I thought I'd show you a bit how we work, or how I work. The object of doing these demos and stuff for me is to make sure you're representing the product in as most authentic sounding way as possible. You don't want to hype the sound in any way. You want it to be a true representation. So, you know, I'm not biased to any product. Rob and Lee aren't biased to any product. If something sounds good, it sounds good. So, what do? Well, here we have all the channels. The top one is all the speech, as you can see. I go through manually with the marquee tool, and I cut out all the bits when we're playing, so we don't have any, you know, basically the vocal mic would distort whenever there's guitar going on. So I edit all that out and do all your fades and stuff. Then we have the 57 and the 414 here. So we're running them pretty much both straight up the middle, because there's only one mic going on. And EQ wise, I use a very subtle bit of EQ on each one, because again, I want to stay true to the sound. And basically what we're looking at is the bass roll off. So it's just anything sort of sub 100. It's about, I think it's about 85 it starts kicking in. Want to get rid of all that horrible rumbling, foot knocking. It's on the site's on an industrial estate. You've got lorries rumbling past, all that kind of thing. So it's really just to tidy up the audio a bit. And there's about half a dB boost on the high frequencies at about 5K, I believe it is. Yeah, you can see it there. Very, very subtle. If I switch that in and out, you probably won't hear it unless you've got extremely good monitors or extremely good headphones on. Here at Maplewood, I do have, so I just tweak very subtly until I'm really happy with what we got. That's it. So the sound that's being recorded is exactly what you're hearing. Now, the room itself that we're recording sounds pretty shit, to be honest. It's not a controlled environment. It's not acoustically treated in any way. You know, stuff everywhere. So room sound isn't really an option because it doesn't sound good. However, I do have a Sontronics dual ribbon microphone in the room, which I use for a slight bit of distant miking from the cabs. So if we've got two cabs on either side, I have the mic sat center, so we're looking at each one, and I have it sort of pointing down at the ground, so we're kind of trying to capture just a little subtle bit of the guitar, which is these two channels here. I don't use any EQ on that. I use them very subtly in the mix. I tend to, after trial and error with a few takes and a few test pieces, Rob and I decided that we'd go for an artificial convolution reverb, and then it was just the choice of finding the right one that doesn't flatter the sound. It just adds the feeling of being in a room, as dry guitar sounds aren't really, you know, natural sounding. So I use a TC Electronics, again, the System 6000 VSS3 reverb. It's set to a big soft room. I'll play you a bit of this separately in a minute. A totally unbiased kind of reverb. It's not bright. It's not like a bright plate or anything. It just gives the feeling of a bit of air in there. So before we look at the output stage, let me play you a bit of guitar with this so you can hear what we're talking about. So you can hear that reverb. Just sounds like a distant kind of room mic. So 57. 57 dry. No EQ. There's our ambient kind of room mic. So you can hear there's nothing that's really hyping the sound. The reverb's very natural sounding. It's, yeah, like I say, not adding air or anything. It just adds the feeling of a space. So that's all good. Output stage. First of all, you run it all through a Waves SSL bus compressor. Anyone that knows anything about the Waves or the SSL bus compressor, it's just got a really nice kind of ability to kind of glue a mix together. So using it very softly, it's just really gelling everything together nicely. So again, I'll switch this in and out. I use it a bit of a volume boost sometimes and that kind of thing. So have a listen to that. So you can hear again, very subtle. Just you see the needle move on the transients, the hard hits, which is what we want. We just want to control those a little bit. Next thing, the signal chain is the Oxford inflator, and I use this to drive the mix, give it a bit more. It adds volume basically. You can volume without distorting, all that kind of thing. It gives the perception of volume, as it were. And the curve, basically, I'll move it so you can hear what it does. It will either give the bottom end more character in the mix or the top end, so it's pretty much central. There's nothing fancy going on with this, but again, I'll cut it in and out so you can hear what it's doing. Okay, so I really, like I say, just use that to boost the perceived volume. And of course, everyone these days just wants loud, loud, loud. It's very, it's such a topic, and the whole volume wars in music. I used the TC Electronics System 6000 brick wall limiter. I also use this as the dithering option, so it's set to 16-bit resolution and all that kind of stuff. And I just drive this, so we're getting a nice bit of volume, but we're not hitting the limiter flat out all the time. Remember, this is just highlighted on one section of music. You've got speech going on, all this kind of thing, so the level's always fluctuating, and sometimes the odd transient creeps through and it's got to whack it and capture it, otherwise you're going to get clipping. So have a listen with that. So there you go. That is the signal chain for the audio. The bulk of the work is always editing out the speech and all that kind of stuff. And obviously when we do the looper reviews, pedal reviews, all that kind of stuff, there's a little bit more to the editing process then, because sometimes the volume changes with the loopers, or specific effects, so I have to sometimes correct a bit of volume. But again, you're making sure if Lee or Rob are demonstrating that there's a perceived or a volume difference with a gain reduction switch or an attenuation switch, you want to make sure that comes through across in the video. So you don't want to volume boost that, because otherwise it kills the whole point of saying this is quieter. So there's lots of little bits to think of, and yeah, sometimes it's a little bit tricky going through some of the stuff when you hear the guys talking and you've got to twig what they're talking about. Occasionally Rob will have to send me a little small bit of video that I'll work alongside. If you look back through a couple of the videos when we've been using the 2 amps, I think it was the Fender Hot Rod Deluxe and the Blackstar HT60, I think it was. We were using 2 amps together, and there was a point when Lee was talking about this amp and this amp. So, of course, I don't know where his hands are pointing, so I have to match up the panning with the video. And quite often, if we're using 2 amps, like we did this session as well, when we've got some jam videos coming up, then I will pan the left-hand amp just slightly left and the right-hand amp just slightly right, just so when you're watching a video you've got a kind of representation of where stuff is. And that's pretty much all there is to it. I don't hype the audio in any way, like I said. Obviously you could really go to town with all this kind of stuff, but it defeats the object. So I hope that answers a few of your questions. I hope you found it useful. If you've got any questions about the plugins, give us a shout. I really recommend the Waves stuff. It's just awesome. A lot of people moan about their pricing and the fact you have to pay a yearly sort of fee to keep in the loop of upgrades, but they're a pro company, they're delivering pro products, and I don't know what it is, everyone seems to want something for nothing, when if you want something to keep on being developed and keeping at the top of its game, you're going to have to pay someone for it. So that's just my point. People will probably slag me off below for that. Anyway, that's all. Hope you found it useful. Like I say, any questions, give us a shout. Don't forget to check out the rest of my videos, drum tutorials, studio stuff, all this kind of thing is going on. I've got a busy couple of weeks and months ahead with operations and stuff, but I'm going to try and keep up to date as much as I can. For any drummers out there watching, I've got a load of drums review products, reviews, well, they're demos, drum demos from Mapex. I had Steve White, like I said in the beginning of the video, I think, swing by the studio last Monday, and we went through about 6 snare drums, demonstrated the Mapex kit. I was really impressed. Yeah, I really want one. And they're not stupidly expensive drums, which was amazing. They're a good price point, awesome sounding drum kit. So yeah, see what happens there. Anyway, those videos will be going up over the next week. Yeah, if you're not subscribed, subscribe. Take it easy, stick out.